Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Shivani Singh. In a bombshell exclusive, NewsX reveals the staggering economic toll of the Indigo flight mayhem that's crippled India's skies. And it's a man-made disaster of epic proportions. Our back-of-the-envelope math lays it bare. A whopping rupees 10,000 crore lost in just 8 chaotic days of cancellations and delays, hammering everything from standard weddings to skyrocketing fares and shattered business plans. With over 3,400 flights scrapped since December the 2nd, Indigo, the airline that flies 2 out of every 3 passengers in India, has unleashed a ripple effect that's bleeding the economy dry. From lost tourism revenue to supply chain snarls and irreplaceable productivity hits. Let's in fact take a look at the full breakdown of this back-of-the-envelope math. We will take you through this math that we have tried to ascertain what the economic hit will actually be. Remember viewers that this is back-of-the-envelope calculations. These in no way reflect what is there on the ground. Now, when we look at the economic hit, the part 1 is the immediate hit, which is flight ticket refund. So, if we look at the total flights cancelled, there were 4,500 flights cancelled. And average passengers per flight, if we take it to be around 180, and the average fare, if we take it to be around 5,500 rupees, the total passengers will be 8,10,000, and the total loss, look at that big figure, rupees 455.5 crore. So this is part 1, the flight ticket refund, and this is the loss for that 4,555. The secondary hit, this is the second part of the calculations that we've got for you. If we look at the total flights, again cancelled 4,500, average passengers per flight 180, and the total compensation, if we look at, we are only keeping it at 10,000 rupees. So the total passengers, as we've stated to you, 8,10,000. The total compensation comes across to 810 crore. That's a big number that we are looking at, that this is the secondary hit that comes in play. Now when we look at the third and the most important part, the per person loss. So when we look at those similar figures, 4,500 flights cancelled, 180 passengers per flight, and per person economic damage, we're taking a very reasonable amount of 1 lakh. So when we look at the total passengers of 8,10,000, the total per person lakh goes on to 8,100 crores. Look at that whopping figure, viewers, 8,100 crores for that third hit. So the total approximate hit, this is the big number that we are getting for you. This is the back of the envelope math that we've done for you. The immediate hit, we pointed out to you, 456 crore. The secondary hit, 810 crore of the refunds, and the per person average loss of 8,100 crore. The total outstanding bill for Indigo stands at 9,366 crores. That is approximately 10,000 crore loss. The economic hit is massive for Indigo, viewers, and that's what we are going to do today. We are bringing down these numbers for you. We are breaking it down. This is a back of the envelope math that we've brought for you. But here's the burning question to ones that nobody is actually answering. Who's quantifying the full damage to our GDP? And who will pay back for India for this avoidable catastrophe born of poor planning, crew shortages, and a blatant disregard for new pilot rest rules? I open up this discussion, and joining us on this broadcast is Dr. Ajay Dua, former Commerce Secretary, Mithali Crore, economist, And Surjit Panesar, aviation expert, also joining us will be Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist. I thank you all for joining us on this broadcast to discuss the numbers which actually matter for the country. If I can go across to Dr. Dua first. Dr. Dua, what do you make of these numbers that are coming? All right, we will in fact try to reconnect over here. If I can go across to Mithali Nikore. Mithali, what do you make of this back of the envelope calculations that we have brought for the nation? 10,000 crore economic hit. Who is going to pay?
Thanks a lot for bringing me into this conversation. I was personally, spared from this crisis, even though I travel a lot. I saw a lot of people just 2 days ago at the Ahmedabad airport who were just crying at the airport, because they were missing their business. There were meetings that were actually, which could have happened, deals which could have happened. So, today when you're presenting your calculations, what you are presenting is pretty much the direct economic cost. One is the direct financial cost, that's the nearly 2,000 crores which you laid out. Then the economic cost of 8,000 crores, which makes complete sense. But on top of that, I'll say there is also the indirect cost, deals which could have happened but didn't happen. Wedding celebrations that could have happened but got cancelled. There were so many, people who lost their lives and, who had to be hospitalized. And there is the cost of that as well. So when we start to, actually break down the math and we start to put a number to these things, the numbers will be actually much higher than 10,000 crores. And really the question today for the Indian consumer and for any of us who has faced an inconvenience because of this crisis is who is going to pay. And at the end of the day, that legal blame has to lie on the airline because the airline had sufficient notice in advance that they should have planned for it, but they didn't. And the open letters which have been circulating from the airline staff clearly tell us that this is not a problem that manifested just with this regulation coming into force, but was actually stewing for years on end. So, the costing which you have talked about, it's absolutely logical because there is the direct cost on the people who were who were flying. But imagine the number of flights that people didn't take, converted them into online meetings, or said that, let me put this trip off because right now is not the good time to fly. That also costs the economy because, this is the peak tourist season. And a lot of tourists were impacted as well. So that also has an economically adverse impact.
Absolutely. Surjit Panesar, if I can come across to you with this question. The economic impact is huge, sir, and Indigo keeps blaming, this is a man-made disaster because they are saying that we didn't have staff to take care, there were rostering changes, all other airlines did it, Indigo failed to do so, and now we are left with this humongous bill in front of us. Mr. Panesar, if you can hear us. All right,
yeah.
We'll...
At the outset, let me say one thing. He has issued a strict order to the airline to pay the return tickets and all that, which the airline had to give it, even otherwise they would have been a case of criminal cheating and forgery against the innocent passenger. But this is a well-planned strategy planned by the Indigo airline to harass the public, and by harassing public,
we will come back to you. There's some issue with the connection over there. I will rope in Gautam Mukherjee into this discussion. Mr. Mukherjee, how do you look at this economic loss that the country is facing because Indigo decided not to do anything about those rules that came into place, and now we are left with such a huge bill in front of us with such a loss to our economy? It's running our economy dry, sir.
It's a big airline. It is profitable. It has a 60% market share. So since this is a totally deliberate and avoidable occurrence that has inconvenienced thousands of people all over the country, a big fine is in order to some people in the DGCA as well as in Indigo need to be punished, perhaps be sent off. Three, and this has been mentioned by the minister in Parliament, that possibly some percentage of their air, I don't know what they exactly call it, but the permissions to fly to different places, they're talking of cutting back at least 5% to start with. Now, all of this will go towards adjusting some of the costs onto the backs of the people responsible in Indigo, and the negligence that has come about. It's no good DGCA saying, you see, the others have complied, these people haven't complied. They were warned, they knew about it, they did nothing about it, so they are also culpable. So it's a combination of the DGCA, possibly some of the higher ministry officials, maybe DGCA reported it to the ministry and they did nothing. So all of this needs to be investigated, and I'm sure the magisterial inquiry may turn up a lot of this kind of thing. And then you need a shakeup, and you certainly need to punish Indigo, not just for this incident, but to prevent them from doing this kind of thing in the future by reducing their influence and scope of works.
Absolutely. Mitali Nukore, if I can come back to you, when we are looking at specifics, this is obviously a back of the envelope calculation, but if you look at the specifics per person loss, Mitali, it's humongous, and you cannot quantify that. From missed business deals to lost wages to deferred travel, accommodation costs, you cannot quantify that, but we've tried to get a glimpse into, that loss, 8,100 crore just per person loss, Mitali.
No, absolutely. And, you're absolutely right to put a number to this because, often we just say, okay, this has been a major loss for the country or for the airline, for the sector. But this is actually a major loss, which is also going to have an impact on insurance companies, because a lot of people who would be traveling would be filing claims in front of their travel insurance companies that, look, our flight was delayed because, say, for example, you are a traveler, you're going from Mumbai to Delhi, and then from Delhi you're catching another international flight, and you missed your international connection because of this mayhem and chaos. Then you will be writing to an international travel insurance provider, and they will be required to give you a compensation. So, the loss and the way this loss occurs, it transcends beyond just Indigo. It actually has shaken up the entire aviation sector. It has introduced and exposed the risks, of the dependence on this one airline for the entire sector. And here, I really feel that there is a responsibility of the regulator, that is DGCA, as well as the Airports Authority of India, because both of these, authorities have to ensure that the permissions and, permits which are issued to other airlines are expedited. So what happens is, a lot of airlines, if they even want to expand their routes, it can take them months to get even one route approved. And, to have a sort of an expedited approval for other airlines is now critical. Plus, the government really needs to come in and say, what, if we have brought this Udan scheme, where we have brought in, affordable sort of route pricing, where we are activating these new airports, can we also work with the smaller airlines that are serving these Udan airports and help them expand to the major routes as well? And I think with Akasa, the government did that. The government actually supported Akasa with some expedited approvals. So it is very critical that, the regulator and the ministry support in the economic evolution of the sector, and also support some foreign airline, foreign participation and investment, because there has to be competition in the industry.
Absolutely. In fact, Mr. Panesar, if you are back on the line with us and if you can hear us, when you are looking at this man-made disaster, this was not weather, this was not tech problems, this was a man-made disaster. Indigo knew what it was doing. It was bleeding the economy, and that 1 week has proved. We have some numbers that we have approximately calculated. So do you think Indigo should be blamed for entire thing? Should this be consolidated and Indigo should be asked to pay the penalties directly and indirectly?
Well, this is a very well pre-planned strategy by the Indigo airline manager to blackmail DGCA and the ministry through the passengers by harassing and frustrating passengers. They should be punished. I am happy at least the Mantri has given strict order to pay the money back. That they had to pay, otherwise it is a criminal case. But what about the frustration and the humiliation caused to the passengers who come from abroad and they want to go to small cities, they are at the airport without food, without water, without accommodation? It's a matter of shame. They have brought the shame to the country. We are supposed to be one of the best democratic countries in the world, and today they have brought the aviation as a mockery of the aviation. They should be punished, and I think this is a lottery for the other airline that they've increased the prices exorbitant because of these people. Maybe they have a connivance. Now 4,000 rupee ticket is cost to 40,000, to calculate it 1 lakh. It is cheaper, going to London is cheaper than going to Bombay, this thing. We request the Honorable Minister also to bring the regulatory agency to fix the fares for all the routes. Like other country in America, there is a regulatory body. They control the fares. You cannot increase it whatever you like it. You may be private airline, but the law of the land has to be followed. We will only request humbly to the Honorable Minister to place a bar on charging very heavy price. They should return the extra money they have taken it from the passengers for cheating and forgery. What best they can do it to we people? I think it's a high time the ministry should rise to the occasion and should file a criminal case against the airline or cancel their license for 15 days. They will come on their knees. They have imported foreign people from other countries to run the airline. Where are those people? They just got 6 days ago from a slumber sleep. They said we shot of the crew. They knew only 6 days ago they shot of crew. What planning they have done earlier? Just to harass the passengers, to humiliate the passengers. They are children, they are young, old ladies, young people, couples. They have to go for their own functions and examination, interview, court cases. They put them into such a harassment. Why should they not be fined? I think the Honorable Court should take a sumo action against the
Sir, I'll come back
airline.
to you. In fact, also joining us on this discussion is Professor Aman Agarwal, Director, Indian Institute of Finance. Sir, thank you for joining us. When we are looking at the economic impact of this short-term crisis that happened because of Indigo, because of those man-made failures that Indigo actually brought into place, we are looking at rupees 10,000 crore. This is back of the envelope calculation, sir. We are just trying to put a number to that economic loss. Who is going to pay back, sir? Our country and our economy is bleeding dry because of one airline. Professor Agarwal, if you can hear us. Professor Agarwal, if you can hear us now, we are talking about the financial impact, sir, of this entire man-made crisis. What do you make of it?
You see, there will be losses to the organizations as well as to the government, but given the fact that the fares have risen extremely high because of the disturbance, neither the government nor those airlines which are raising the prices will have an impact. However, this will create a disturbance in terms of the employee base and their, concerns on terms of health, in terms of schedules. Already, some of our own students also who have been working in the airlines industry have, raised this issue of creating disturbances. Number of flights which they were supposed to attend have increased. As a result, they are facing difficulties. So there will be dissatisfaction amongst the employee base. However, as you would have read in various newspapers also, the fare for these flights have gone up tremendously high. So typically there would be some recoup in terms of revenue loss to the airlines, but that is not a long-term solution. This always happens wherever a disruption happens. In the overall, I would not say there will be a much impact on the GDP growth rate, but certainly the companies where the disruptions are there, where the flights are getting cancelled, or either because of the DGCA requirement or other requirements, there would be financial losses. And if this continues for a period of about 15 days to 20 days, there could be major financial losses to that company.
So, but when you look at the personal financial loss as well, we cannot put a number to it. We've tried to calculate. So many people have lost business deals, sir. So many missed, deals that they were trying to form with new companies. How do we accommodate that, sir? Because everybody is left
No, I
bleeding.
appreciate the concern. First of all, business deals, some of them need physical presence, which is a mandatory requirement, and that cannot be fulfilled by this kind of a disruption for sure. However, business deals which are in terms of agreements, in terms of moving forward in a relationship, all those can be done like we are connecting over Zoom for this interview. And most of the discussions, even in the past, used to happen over the telephone. Contracts used to be finalized over the telephone. So it is never that traditionally did not happen. One could always move forward with collaborations or agreements going forward, and one does not need to be physically present for that. Today, many a times we sign agreements and send them across through courier, and those are signed. We have signed agreements with various universities in the United States and other countries, wherein we have signed the agreements and we have sent them over courier, and then they sign and send it back. So physical presence typically is not a mandatory requirement for contracts to go forward or agreements to go forward. Certainly, when you're doing a site inspection or when you're doing an activity where physical requirement of a person is there, in that case, certainly there would be business losses or delays or lags. But that is something which always happens now and then, and it is nothing new. We've had multiple cases in the past where because of which flights have got delayed either at peak
All right.
times.
So we spoke numbers today. This